Welcome, everyone, to Coffee and Conversations from the Intimacy of Race. I have a very special guest with me this morning, Jennifer Hough. And I'm just going to take a few minutes to read her bio. Where did I put it? Just had it right here. There she is. So Jennifer Hough is a best-selling author, seer, and lover of life. She made a traumatic transition in her 30s from working a multinational corporation doing forecasts to seeing life, people, and the world as an energy holograph. She now travels the world acting as a conduit for those who seek the ability to fully live out their purpose with clarity and confidence. So I'm sure the travel the world part is probably not on a plane so much anymore, but your spirit is just flying about in the world right now through these virtual mediums. But welcome, my love. I'm so happy to have you.
I'm just honored to have been invited.
Yeah.
I'm just really happy to be here.
Thank you. So one of the reasons I've asked Jennifer to be my guest on here, I've worked with Jennifer before. She's been a facilitator in some programs that I've been in, and I've also had the honor of interviewing her on one of my my summits, one of my shows, and she is just so incredibly special, intuitive, and just creates a really great space. And I was curious to have an intimate conversation with you, my dear, about I know you have a group called the Wide Awakening, if I'm saying it correctly. And I was really curious. We haven't talked beforehand, so you guys are getting a raw conversation here. What has been your awakening around the racial issues that you are seeing in the world today?
Well, I would say thanks to you and our dear friend Valerie and our dear friend Teralyn and our dear friend Denise that we all have mutually in common. It's interesting. For me, the experience started by moving to the South. So being from Toronto, it's pretty cosmopolitan city. It's got its own issues for sure, but it's not so in your face. So when I moved to the South, it was really obvious that there was some tension or a division or lack of understanding, sort of in the ethers, right? It's sort of in the air. And I had to get accustomed to what was going on. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but I'll tell you, as soon as, George Floyd happened, as soon as everything blew up on the media, I started reading and I started watching videos and I started coming to this conclusion. And I think it was in a conversation with Valerie Shepard, actually, where I said, I just need to be really vulnerable with you because I've been reading and I need to ask you something because I feel completely ignorant of the experience of what it's like to be a Black woman in the United States. Clearly, I am a white woman. And she said, go, let it rip. And I said, from all of my readings, all I keep getting, I'm going to get teary-eyed when I say this, from everything I've been reading, the conclusion I'm coming to, about Black history, watching videos, understanding, white privilege, all of that stuff. The biggest thing I'm present to is my girlfriends that I love that are of color. It's like you walk around every day, Valerie. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you walk around every day with your vigilance up for what might happen, what could happen. You drive your car in that state. You get up in the morning, you tell your children that, although she doesn't have any children, but you tell your children that your mother told you that, or your father told you that you have to treat the police a certain way. You out in the world, there's a certain way to hold yourself if you really want to be taken seriously. There was just like a plethora of things I was starting to take in. It was like a bomb, actually.
Wow.
It was really like I had to keep pulling back because it was like an affront to my senses, taking in, even me saying that, there's this little guilt that comes in. It's like affront to my senses. Imagine how all your Black friends feel every morning. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm not allowed to have an affront to my senses. Like, get over yourself, Jennifer. Yeah. Look at how your friends wake up every morning. And so that's how it started for me, is this real in your face, like, oh my God. And I cried. I mean, yeah, I cried. Yeah, it's like, whoa.
This is happening in the world. You know what I found interesting about what you just shared? Growing up as a Black woman in America, I'm trying to think of any conversations that I've had with my parents. It's kind of like you just knew. Huh. You knew you were different. You knew that you were looked at 10%, 20%, 30% less than. You knew that you weren't the standard that beauty and intelligence were measured on. You just knew. And, the awakening for me, if you'll allow me to share with you, was the amount of resilience that is just inbred in the Black community, and especially in Black women, Black females, to always be strong and resilient to the aggressions and the affronts and, you're different. Like, well, why am I different? Why aren't you different? Like, different from what?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was the second level of and that happened in a conversation with Dr. Terrelin, right? Mm-hmm. I'm having a conversation with her and I'm thinking, I think she has 2 master's degrees and a PhD, I'm pretty sure. And I'm thinking,
oh, she's off the charts.
Yeah, like, why do you have to have 2 master's degrees and a PhD? There was just like, and I just know, I keep noticing a level. It started actually, Eva, with a noticing of the level of professionalism and beauty with which all of my Black women friends handled their businesses and their clients. And there was a level of integrity that was so gorgeous. And I'm like, what is that? And I know I hang out with lots of people that have integrity and run their businesses really beautifully. But there was just a particular, like an up the ante thing. So Dr. Terrelin and I were having a conversation about that. And that's when, again, another whole like hit me in the face moment happened, where I thought the amount of resilience, strength, truth-telling, congruence that it takes to be a Black woman, because you and I were talking about this, and I was trying to have the call, and I remember, how do I say this without sounding like a complete freaking ignorant idiot? And we were talking about misogyny, but I realized that a Black woman has both the misogyny issue and the race issue. I mean, I understand the misogyny issue already, but when you lay over top of it, and I don't think I ever completed that conversation with you, because that's where I came to. Oh, it's like this overlay of not only white male privilege, right, which I also experience, but then put on top of it, like, come on.
Yeah, right? The struggle is real. You know, we grew up, every Black woman, especially the successful ones, we had to be better.
Yeah. Oh, I got it.
We had to be better. We had to keep, there's so many times I was told that I wouldn't be successful. And, because I was always the only or one of a handful in whatever community I happened to land in. And I tend to follow my passion regardless. But I had to be the best dental hygienist at a time when dental hygienists were not Black. But they also weren't male. It was a white, female-dominated profession when I went in the late 70s, early 80s. It sounds ancient.
Silly, I know.
That was really big hair ago.
I haven't gotten over it.
I was just at my dad's house, and he still's got those photos on the wall of my high school and dental hygiene school graduation. I'm like, look at that helmet hair between the hairspray and teasing it out. Okay, squirrel, I digressed. But my point in sharing that with you, like even with the coaches that I work with today, one of the realizations, because your Black community is having awakenings too, this is clearly not a one-sided awakening, but our awakening looks different from your awakening. And my intention has always been to bring us both together in our awakenings and create this transformational explosion so that the system gets beat up and changed transformed at a sustainable level, not just
hold on. You asked me before, can I just, because I'm going to forget this. Okay, good. So thank you. So, oh my gosh, girl. So you asked me before we got on, just like right before, you said, how has it informed what you do? It's made what I do more important to me. It's poured passion, because really, ultimately, what do I do? Well, I assist people to find harmony and live in overflow, finding systems, metaphysical systems, such that people that are birthed from polarity. They're birthed from polarity, Eva. So that is exactly how I love that you said that. I mean, I just really feel like that's where we meet. Because we're both building bridges. And for me, it's about how do we create a system that I like to call this third entity. It's neither of these, right? But it is informed by both of these, the polarity of both of these. And so I actually think that I have been more focused, more passionate, more interested in exploring that aspect of the direction that I'm headed, directly as a result of this whole conversation around race. So thank you for bringing that up. I don't think it's a solution. I think it's a solution that is ever evolving as your community wakes up, the white community wakes up, and then collectively as humanity, we wake up, right? So it's crazy.
This is a marathon, not a sprint. And we get to be kind to ourselves. We get to be patient to what is being revealed to us on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly basis. And, one of the reasons I created this group is because the fear, the guilt, and the defensiveness and the shame that was coming up in the white community is not going to serve to move us forward. It really is, okay, you're now awakened to a lot more things that you were, that you haven't been awakened to. Now what? What is the action step? How can you move forward to not want to be right and defend yourself? Because so many people are taking it personally. I'm not a racist and getting on that. Like, you know what? We all are. All right. Let's just get, let's just name it, face it. And we want to change that. How can we be better? How can we do better so that we all can have better? Because it really is an army that that I want to build of strong, powerful women to really between the misogyny and the racial injustice and inequality, it's women that are going to forge this path and change the world. It really is. No offense to the guys who are working, because we need, the way my husband has been a cradle for me in the wave of emotions that I've been experiencing around this has just been really juicy and beautiful. And my husband has never been Black, ever. I don't think in any of his lives. If he did, he doesn't. And he is, not raised in America either. So he's got that as well. And I share that with you because we really are an all hands on deck, and we can't waste time in the shame and guilt of it all. We just can't.
And this isn't just an American issue, of course.
Of course, yes.
Right. It's a global issue. And the other side of it is, I think as you're speaking, I can really see the power in his being a witness, being a loving, unconditional witness to your journey. There's something metaphysically and physically and lifely powerful about that. That's just so I've watched Adam go through his own version of that, because he is mocha, and he
that sounds really yummy.
Yeah, it does. It's mocha.
My husband is mocha. Yum yum.
And but also his ancestry is from Spain. So he's got both. It's very confusing for him because he's both been the oppressor and the oppressee, right? And
he's also white presenting, so you can't really look at him and see his ancestral DNA.
Yes,
like with
which is a whole other.
That's a whole other issue right there.
That's a whole other issue.
What's interesting about, I had a lot of fear and trepidation around how my husband would react to what I'm doing, what I'm feeling, what I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh my God, am I going to have to school him too? And I remember the emotion that came up in me that I had never experienced before witnessing George Floyd's murder. And I was literally at like, is this what ancestral pain and trauma and grief feel like? Like, I never experienced this before. Like, what is happening to me? It was literally a transformative experience. And I knew that I could not do business as usual. But I also went to bed crying every night, not knowing what to do, where I could have an impact. And, this was birthed and downloaded during a meditation. It just was like, white people need some help right now because they don't know what to do, what to say, and they're screwing up, and then they're being silent. And
it's embarrassing. I've gotten over I just assume I'm going to mess up every once in a while. So I just, so I just assumed I'm going to. So I'm like over being ashamed of myself anymore. Right. It's like, just tell me, I will fix it. Just tell me, I will fix it.
Thank you for bringing that to my attention. I really appreciate it because I'm more interested in getting it right than being right, like Brene Brown says.
Oh, but
in my tears, I remember him I was bawling, like literally bawling as if my dog died, which would be like, I'd be done. Because you know how I feel about my dog.
Oh,
I love my kids, but I really love my dog.
I'm right with you on that one.
And I remember him just coming and holding me.
Aww.
First of all, he wanted to make sure nobody in the family directly died. Like, what's wrong? And I'm just
gosh.
But he just held space for me, which was the most loving thing that I could ever appreciate that this man has done for me, because he did, how men want to fix things. It's going to be all right. It's going to be okay. And that's not what I needed to hear in that moment. And the fact that he just put his arms around me, he didn't even ask, what could I do? What do you need? He just held me in a loving embrace. And it was just like, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. Because I didn't know. how he would react to my unexplained grief. And so it was really, really a powerful moment between us to just like, he knows he can't fix it. He knows he can't make it better, but what he can do is what he knows my love language is I just love being held and in that embrace, and just like, it was like that, like, oh my God, what is happening?
Yeah,
So,
it's so overwhelming, and I can't literally can't imagine what it's like for you, but I know what it's like for me, and I feel a lot.
yeah, you do.
And
Very intuitive with that. That's why I was like, you're going to be perfect.
so, yeah, and I just had to keep. I never. Oh, this is so interesting. I'm saying this. I don't think I've ever said this before. I experienced. I can take a lot. We've taken people to third world countries. We build bridges in places that a lot of people don't go. It's for me, it's, I've seen a lot of really bad things firsthand, like really perceptively, this is not good kind of things, harsh. And when I somehow I could process it in the being able to, assist in wherever I was. But then in this particular country, I was doing a series of interviews with some of my Black friends, just having conversations. And what was really fascinating for me was in those conversations, I had never felt like a sense of overwhelm before about it. Like I had to take a day or two off. That's not like me. Like I had to process what just got spoken to me. I had to process what the world must be like for a whole bunch of people that I adore. And then we've been sitting here with all of this information that's kind of below the surface. You can feel it, and that's what I was feeling when I moved down here. But now it's visible, and you can't run away from it. You can't have the convenience of it not being in front of you, and so to speak. And as they were sharing, it became more and more and more vivid. And I realized, like, as you said, this is a marathon, and we've got to keep, it's weird. Do you understand me when I say it's like we have to keep including each other in our understanding of the world? We have to keep including each other in a deeper understanding, not so we can be like each other, not so we can be overly weird. Like I noticed a couple of moments where I wanted to be overly compensating for the ignorance of something else going on.
I've experienced that. Like so many more people are going out of their way to say hi to me now when I walk the dog that have never really spoken to me before.
Right? So yeah. And maybe some of it swings a little bit too far, but at very least it's something, right?
Right. We'll figure it out. I think we will really, come from a place of compassion and figuring things out and what we can do. So what I really wanted to ask you, because you are a light worker and in the spiritual community, what has been your experience of the communities that you are part of in this whole experience?
I actually I've observed that in some ways there are some similarities to the world at large, like people who wouldn't consider themselves particularly aware. There's still in that community people who say all lives matter. There are still, you see some remnants of their upbringing coming up, so there's that. I would also say there's some bypassing going on in that the few people that I've noticed, not everyone, but again, it happens everywhere. There are people that are not doing their own personal work. They think they've already got it.
Yeah.
And so what they're doing is they're saying all these prayers for harmony in the world, and they're doing all this work to get to the state. Like, they don't want to address the non-kumbaya state, right? So they're more comfortable in the kumbaya. But for me, as you know, it's essential. I mean, for me personally, not just in my work, for me personally, and to be able to authentically and with integrity do my work, I have to do the work within myself first, because I'm a microcosm of the greater macrocosm. If I don't include your experience in my world, if I don't include some kind of bridge to make it make sense within me, how the heck can I teach, how people can build third entity bridges, new systems in reality? And it may sound like, for me, just to understand too, Eva, for me, I'm not particularly, I'm more applied. I'm the physics of spirituality. I'm really the science of spirituality, rather than like a way woo-woo person. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it has to be extremely practical.
Yeah.
Singing Kumbaya is not practical to me. It's like I have to do the work. Once you understand physics, you know that you are a fractal of the greater humanity in which you live. So you have to bring this fractal to congruence. So,
I appreciate you saying that, because what my experience is in conversations that I had with people in the spiritual community is they feel they've already done the work. And so that makes them feel qualified to love and light others into the healing. And this is what's coming up for me as a Black woman.
Yes.
Black women are getting together to heal within their own communities. To have a white spiritual leader want to heal us smacks of saviorism to me personally. And I'm only speaking of myself and the few other women that I've spoken to who are also Black. And, it's like the spiritual community is primarily white that I've experienced. And you've got to go deeper into yourself, into you, intimacy of race, and still look for how you are shaped by the forces of racism and where it shows up in your life. And my experience of the spiritual community, it shows up as white saviorism in a lot of people, not everyone. I'm not talking about, I used to have this preacher that said, I'm not talking about you unless it's you, so. So you don't need the defenses up, but that's been my experience, because for me, my pain fuels my passion. What I'm feeling keeps me going. And I don't have a desire for any deep healing, because personally, I feel it's an affront to the ancestors who have sparked this journey in me, and had these feelings surface in me that I had never experienced before. And I was like, oh my God, is this what they mean by ancestral trauma and grief coming up? It really was a surprise to me, because I'm not woo-woo at all. I'm not, I consider myself compassionate and spiritual and of high integrity, but not, you won't see me with a lot of crystals and stuff, I'm not into, I'm still on that journey, and we'll see where it takes, because I still have some religious trauma that I'm dealing with on a personal level. But I say that to say that.
May I introduce you to our friend, Dr. Terralyn?
Oh yeah. She's been a rock for me.
She's a rock star.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I say that to share that the spiritual community is still struggling with their awakening in my experience of it. And until they are willing to look within first, before offering their love, light, and healing to people of color, I think it's going to not be as powerful as it could be.
And I think, so the aim really, and I've said this so many times, I get it. I get what the aim is, right? The aim is that, in my vernacular, I might say we've all been every color of the rainbow. We've all been in some life, we've been all of it. Mm-hmm. But in this life, my ancestry is not that, mm-hmm. right? And so my experience in 3D is not that. Mm-hmm. And so the aim is to actually be able to integrate, and not in the sense that the government has done. I mean, more be able to walk around this earth with deeper understanding of each other so that we can play together and co-create together. Mm. That's way out here. Mm-hmm. But we're not there. That's not where we're at. So to have someone, where we're at is, you need to heal, I need to heal, and we'll have conversations about building bridges for sure. You and I will do that, and we will do it with other people that we love. But right now we're in the individual understanding of our relationship to what's going on so that we can heal the fractal that we are. That's where we're at now. We're not at the place, there's no receptivity. There's really almost no receptivity for someone who someone isn't curious about their piece of what's going on with the division, right? With the systems that absolutely and completely are based in like, literally there needs to be a recreation from a different space. We're not even in the different space yet because we haven't healed ourselves yet. Yeah. So to think that we could, that anyone white could, have that conversation with anyone Black is pretty funny to me. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, right? It's quite interesting, and which still leads me to believe like you haven't had your awakening yet.
Yeah,
and you still need to listen and learn, and you may have gifts that would work within your white and white presenting community, because there's a lot of shame and guilt going on there. Yeah. And I would advise those people who want to really use their healing powers is to start with yourself.
Yeah.
And people who look like you and have similar experiences as you, but look to come at it as a way of, creating more of a listen and learn. How can we be more open to learning, knowing what we don't know? Because what we know is it's coming from a different perspective.
Totally. I remember having a conversation. I can't remember who it was with, but it was a conversation where, so I'm used to, with my girlfriends, just like we jump in and we talk to each other and we're like, oh yeah, I recognize that. It's a very kind of feminine way of being where we kind of talk over each other and we co-create, it's like all this energy of like, oh my God, that's exactly what happened to me yesterday. And we just, have this great conversation. And I caught myself twice where I'm just in love with my, all of my friends, including my Black girlfriends. And we're having this great conversation about this whole topic, different aspects of it. Mm-hmm. And I thought to myself, and I noticed myself going to a default Gemini, just like getting right into, but talking over.
Mm.
And although to me, that is a complete act of love. That's like my sister, I grew up with sisters. So it's just the way we were.
You do.
And it's like, nope. Different way of operating right now, Jennifer. That's, I mean, I caught myself, but at the same time, even noticing this is a time to, as you just said, Eva, so perfectly, it's a time to really sit back for me and really hear underneath the words. It's like there's history in the words, there's healing in the words, there's ancestry in my Black girlfriend's words, there's the bridges that they're building personally, for never mind what happened in their family. I mean, that's not even the Black part, that's like just the family part. And really being a witness to it, while being a witness, not from up here, but being a witness for myself, to go, oh, okay. And then I take that away and I do what I need to do, right? It's like, oh, I got it. And then I go away.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
Did you presence that elephant in the room, so to speak? Did you presence what your experience was in that moment to share with your girlfriends that, you know, I noticed I was doing this and I intentionally shifted how I was entering this conversation to listen more?
I think Valerie and I have had a conversation about that. I'm pretty sure Valerie and I have, but not anyone else. But
it's interesting.
Yeah, it's significant for me. It's significant because I get really excited about things, and that's about me.
Yeah.
You know, and those conversations are not about me. Those conversations about a shift in the world that requires that I not just listen with my 2 ears, but with my 75 trillion cells, you know, like I really.
You want to absorb.
Yeah.
And,
really.
and to really, you know, and that's beautiful that you did that. So I do want to acknowledge and appreciate that awakening in you. Like, you know what? It's time for me, especially in this conversation that's not about shoes or handbags or, you know, our coaching businesses, but it's about something that I will never have true empathy for because I'll never walk in the shoes of a Black woman or man for that matter. So I get to be in a space of consumption at this point, you know. So the more you consume and learn, you can take that, because the racism is a white problem. It's not a Black problem. And so it takes, you know, white and white presenting people to bring these awarenesses and awakenings to their community, to your communities, whether it's the spiritual community, whether you're, you know, in a healing community, whether you're in a coaching confidence community. Like, how can we show up better as white people who really are wanting to be a catalyst and have an impact for transformation and change in marginalized communities of Black and brown people?
It is a white problem, but we have to do it together.
Of course.
We have to do it together. We can't, otherwise, again, we're back to that saviorism, you know?
Exactly.
And it has to be co-created. So what's the, again, Canadian, sorry, don't know this, but like a more perfect union. It's about a more perfect union. It's we the people. And I see we the people. Listen, are there communities that are awesome? Sure. Are there, you know, communities that are on their way or at least have some consciousness about it? Absolutely. Are there churches that are doing that? For sure. Are there different pockets that are in the trajectory? It might not be there yet, but it's on the way. Absolutely. And are they in communal conversations? Completely. But for me, it's almost like a declaration has to be made of like, we're going to, like, until we're at a place where at a governmental level, there's a declaration that the systems are going to change, we're still doing the work.
Yes, yes, yes. And, you know, just to clarify, this work is very, very taxing on Black and brown communities. Very, very taxing, which is why I prefaced that racism in general is a white issue, not a Black issue, because you're not going to find, you know, you can find Black people integrating into white communities, I think, a lot easier and more often than you find it the other way around. It's just my observation, and I could be wrong, but I know that very few times have I been in more diverse and inclusive communities where there were equal numbers of a variety of diverse colors in the room. I say colors because just because you present as white, you may not have that ancestral history as white. And it's always, you know, my point in saying that is that it's up to the white people to spark the curiosity, to listen, and to encourage each other, to be that role model and share, this is what I've learned. Did you know? You know, you've got to watch this, you've got to see that, because, you know, I find me personally taking a lot more time for self-care, because the resistance is it's hard to feel. It's very hard to feel because it is a humanity thing. It's not a political thing, in my opinion, you know, and changing the laws of government is something that does get to happen. However, on a humanity level,
way out there,
you know, when there's resistance, I mean, I've heard people say, you know, well, y'all had February. You got February. We gave you February. And then it just smacks back to slavery days. You had a Black president for 8 years. You didn't do anything. Like,
oh my gosh.
You know, some of the things that come up can really, really break your spirit. It's really spirit breaking. And so when I mean that, you've got to lead the charge for listening. You got to lead the charge for transformation, and you've got to encourage each other not to be not to live in the space of shame, blame, guilt, and defensiveness. But you know what? We get to step back in our authority, and be in a position of really just, what am I hearing here? You know, how can I get present to the compassion to listen?
It's so interesting. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Well, and what I love is there also needs to be spaces where we can commune, because I'm vigilant for people taking leadership without the understanding. Right. Yes. When it's like, I totally hear what you're saying. This is going to take discipline. It's going to take consciousness on a deliberate effort. It's going to take practices, even like within ourselves, to make sure that this stays in the forefront. For me, what I think it harkens back to something else you said around women. You know, we have the sensitivity. We have the ability to connect so deeply in a way that's different than men. We're mothers. You know, at a certain level, we understand what it's like to be a mother of our child, or whatever that vernacular is. And all mothers hold that in common all over the world. And I feel this beautiful sisterhood developing, you know, where that third entity can be created. But you're absolutely right. We have to be responsible for our experience, but it's not just our experience. Then when it presents to actually do and say and speak, we are the ones that have to do it. It is not up to Black people to do that. Maybe to
direct, help guide you.
Also co-create. You know, there's certain things that are going to take co-creation, because
all of it. You know what? It's you know, my friend Lisa Denon Young said, it's all hands on deck. In this fight. It's all hands on deck. And so
it won't always be pretty either, Eva.
Yeah, we each have a particular role. Oh God, no. We're in a huge breakdown, and we've got a lot of shit to go through before there's a breakthrough right now.
Yep.
But you know what? You've got to really be clear on your intention. You got to have commitment. You know, what I've recently done is created what I call a sustainable ally leadership intensive.
Nice.
Simply because she's a girl, to really, really hone in on 6 key areas that will strengthen your leadership so that whatever you want to do as an ally can be sustainable and not be over, not be tired, not forgotten, because Black people don't have that luxury of moving in and out of it. We live it. It's present all of our day, our single day. But white people can get tired and take, you know, like, well, not now. I need to focus on this, that. How can you integrate it so that it becomes part of the thread of your being and take a stand that's more than a sign on your lawn that birds shit on? You know what I mean? It's really, it takes more than that. And I've had somebody say to me, well, I have a sign on my lawn. Okay, and I have a sign on my lawn so people know where I take a stand. So it really does take action too. And, you know, it's a journey for people, and some people are going to go into it slower than others, and, you know, will dip their toe in the water. But for me, the resolve to not give up and to create transformation that's lasting is my intention. And I want to thank you, because we've gone over time. I've been going over time lately. It's supposed to be 30 minutes. I want to thank you for really stepping into this container with me and being an ally in this transformation at home, at work, and in your community as well. So I appreciate you, my love. Thank you.
May I just, Eva, I know how much courage, you know, I've been, you know, going over the page and stuff, and really, I know how much self-care this takes. I know what it's like to be on the forefront of something, but on the forefront of this it takes leadership at a level that's something else, especially if you're a Black woman. So
thank you.
I appreciate you and everything you're doing on this page, and what you didn't have to. I know probably you would say I did have to, but ultimately you didn't have to. And putting yourself out there the way you do, it is appreciated. It's inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And on that note, thanks to everyone who has been part of this conversation with Jennifer and myself. Whether you're watching live or on the replay, please join the Intimacy of Race, where we have these powerful conversations every Friday morning at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. And there are resources on this page to help you on your journey of allyship. And this is a loving, safe, supported space. You're not going to be you're not going to hear any hate or any criticism. You're just going to get loving direction on how to strengthen your leadership in being an ally. So thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, everyone who watched.
Thank you, everyone.
See you next Friday. Bye.